Hey, I'm Jacob Biswell, and I am the CEO and founder of Aggieland IASIS, and this is my IASIS Micro Current Neurofeedback story. If I take you back to my childhood, I was raised by an incredible mom and a dad who really struggled with life. He battled some addictions, he battled some abusive behaviors, and that kind of started my journey in discovering trauma. Fast forward, I found myself in a cult for a season of time. I know, long story. That's going to raise a lot of questions right there. I get it. But even through that, experienced some more trauma. Fast forward to my mid-20s, I'm a master's student. I'm studying theology, and an opportunity to do a dual master's program where I wasn't just studying theology, but I also got to study psychology with a focus on cult trauma was presented to me, and I jumped at the opportunity. I got to study how religious trauma affects people and the way our brain works and some of those things that happen in our lives and how we become hypervigilant and we get stuck in these different modes of fight or flight or freeze, and all of these things happen in our lives, and I got to study that out. Fast forward even a few more years, and I find myself working at a therapeutic boarding school alongside Chris Stockwell, who is our co-founder of Aggieland IASIS, and I'm learning more about trauma. I'm reading books like How the Body Keeps the Score, and all the while I've got my own trauma that I hadn't necessarily worked through, hadn't necessarily found answers for, but in the journey had gained some incredible keys. Fast forward even a couple more years, and I meet an incredible woman named Jennifer Wiedekind, and she becomes part of our church, and I get to walk alongside of her in that process. And fast forward a couple more years, and one of our members of the church that I get the opportunity to pastor, Jeannie, comes to me and says, "Hey, there's this new technology. I think it'd be really good for you. I think you really should look into it." And I was like, "No, don't have time for it." And she goes, "Well, it's kind of what Jennifer's doing these days." And I said, I just don't have time. I'm not interested. Fast forward, as God would have it, I end up doing Jennifer's wedding, performing her wedding, finding out more about IASIS Micro Current Neurofeedback, and I'm intrigued. I think it's really cool, but I say I don't have time for it. In that process, I really felt God begin to speak to me about the next steps of our ministry, of things that I was to be involved in, all the while carrying this deep heart to see people reach wholeness, to see people deal with the wounds of their souls. All of this is swirling on the inside of me. And so finally I sit down and I have a conversation with Larry and Jennifer Wiedekind, and I discover what IASIS really does and how it works with the brain, and I'm sold on it. And so to make a long story short, in that process, I ended up becoming a trained ICP, IASIS certified practitioner under Jennifer. And in that process, I start treating patients, and I'm working with people, and I'm discovering the incredible benefits. Little did I know I was going to need IASIS in a very real way. In about February, March of 2023, I began to suffer from some very real anxiety. And in that, I began to receive IASIS treatments. I actually began to treat myself, and the improvement that I saw in my hypervigilance, in my ability to regulate anxiety, my ability to sleep, it improved vastly as I then had the ability to work through the trauma and see my own therapist and work through some of my own stuff. And so in that process, we found that God was calling me to open Aggieland IASIS. It was during that time I began to treat Chris, and you can watch his video where he tells his IASIS story. And Chris was just so transformed by IASIS Micro Current Neurofeedback that he eventually worked up the courage to say, "Jacob, I think I'm supposed to help you open this office in Bryan College Station." And so we did. And here we are. We're open, and we're seeing already just the amazing feedback. And so that's a little bit of my IASIS story. And I'm encouraging you today that if you're battling things like anxiety and depression and some of those things, we'd love to talk with you. We'd love to get you in our chair and let you receive some treatment.